Hey guys, it's embarrassing to say every time, but it's Big Booty Man 445 here. You probably know me from either my Twitch, YouTube, Vultures, social media, but if you're just stumbling on the video, I appreciate you tuning in. But since the launch of Marvel Rivals a few weeks ago, I've had both the most miserable yet enjoyable time I've ever had in any competitive video game. And after hitting Grandmaster, I think I can firmly give some insight on my experience as a fighting game player going into hero shooters. Although Marvel Rivals isn't my first, I've played Overwatch before, but very loosely. Rivals is the first shooter I've actually tried to take in seriously to some degree and try to understand the game. After about 60 hours, I can draw some similarities from both genres in terms of skill sets and fundamentals that help carry me through the medal ranks. But I like to note beforehand, before I start talking about these similarities, there are key differences that I really had to adapt to, and as a fighting game player, I'd probably let y'all know. For starters, very obvious to say, but Rivals is a shooter. You know, you need those hand-eye coordination skills you wouldn't really see in fighting games, especially if you want to, climb. You need to at least practice it every so often, because those people in the ladder, they're so cracked. They're cracked on the sticks. And using your fighting game peripherals, unless you're MJ Karase, which shout out to him, using a controller on the PC servers is really difficult. I recommend using a keyboard and mouse. It changes your life. Next up though are the length of matches and who you're playing with. In fighting games at least, unless you're playing a first to 10 or you're game 5 in a bracket in a grand finals reset, matches don't really tend to be too long, especially in my main game, Guilty Gear Strive. Matches tend to be 3 to 4 minutes at most. But coming into Rivals, just experiencing each round, each match, it just felt like a war of attrition. Every round and every battle could last about 5 minutes, and matches could go from 9 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe. I think the longest I've ever had was 20-minute match. And in those matches, you're not really solely reliant on yourself like you are in fighting games. You have to rely and coordinate with 5 other people, which is the added layer of difficulty. When it comes to similarities, however, I'd like to mention there are 5 key similarities that I've noticed and I've taken advantage of a lot. When it comes to the first one, let's talk about timing and precision. In fighting games, you really need to know when to take advantage of your opponent, when they whiff a move or if they're low on a resource, right? Knowing when to strike, take advantage of these opportunities is a very core aspect of these games. And that transfers right over to Marvel Rivals, if your opponent makes a misplay or if they are out of line, not with the team, and you want to just kill them and take advantage of that so you can win the future team fight. That is timing, that aspect right there. And precision, I'm not referring to the aforementioned execution of hand-eye coordination like I mentioned before and the differences. I'm talking about being really able to do the right things at the right time with pinpoint accuracy, right? If your team needs a bubble really quick, someone's getting dived, you need to do something right then and there. That's precision, right? Doing those things efficiently. The second concept is spacing and situational awareness. When I'm referring to spacing could mean spacing traps or footsies, knowing where your reach begins and ends and where your opponent reach begins and ends. Understanding space control and what to do in that space is really important. And as a tank player myself, I found it very comforting to know that the concept is pretty much the same. If your opponent can only reach so far, or if they're lacking a teammate or they're low on resources, just using that situational awareness of where you are and what your team is doing, what they're doing, and taking advantage of that space is very comforting to me. And knowing when to lose space because you're low is also another aspect of that. And I think it kind of segues into the third thing, which is reactions and quick thinking, especially in those areas of situational awareness. When you are able to understand and interpret what's going on around you, using those reaction skills, like in fighting games, reacting to a reset or a mix-up so you don't get taken advantage of. In those situations, you want to just do something, always do something. Even if it's not the right thing, just being able to see it and being able to do something about it is the most important thing to me. In Rivals, I would mess up a lot because I would fail the execution for a good bubble or something, but I was able to see what was happening and do something, because doing nothing, a lot of players tend to freeze up in both genres. In certain situations, they'll freeze up, not do anything, and that's where you need that quick thinking, right? Even if it's not the right thing, even if it's not the most optimal thing. Quick thinking will get you somewhere, because once you get better, right, your thinking skills and your execution gets a lot better in those situations, you'll appreciate those skills you learn from fighting games. And the fourth thing is knowledge checks, with knowing what's real and what you can take advantage of. In fighting games, knowledge checks are pretty important, especially in anime games, because you get snowballed so hard that if you don't know these certain things, it will literally ruin you. And a lot of matches are determined by knowledge checks, especially with the characters I play, like Gold Lewis, like Slayer. If you don't know what they do, you're kind of boned. But in Marvel Rivals, it's less important to know the knowledge checks. It leads to certain opportunities that you wouldn't have before, like knowing that Magneto can absorb the Punisher ult or the Star-Lord ult. Doctor Strange can block the Hela ult with his shield flying up. You can kill Iron Man and Scarlet Witch out of their ults. Hulk can bubble through Jeff ult, all that stuff. All those knowledge checks you can take advantage of and make your life a little bit easier. And lastly is adaptability. Hero shooters is all about that adaptation. And in fighting games, when playing against a certain opponent, whether they're aggressive, so you play more passive, or whether they're passive, you play more aggressive, being able to change your playstyle and change the way you think defensively, offensively, all that stuff is pretty key. But instead, in these hero shooters, changing your playstyle is as easy as pressing H and clicking on another character, especially with counter picks, right? Being able to play not only one character, but more than one role would really expand your gameplay. And I think that's it for the similarities, but I do have some takeaway tips. And I think it's really important for either any new fighting game player or any new player. I like to first start off with playing who you like. You know, everyone says that, but I think it's really important that you play who you like. I don't think I wouldn't have played this game if I didn't find like the Hulk or Doctor Strange fun to play. If I just only played the meta, I would just not play the game at all. Communicating with your team is the second one. I think communication is really important. Even if you're the only one talking, you don't even have to talk. Even if you're typing, being able to communicate with the team can really find great results, right? Just knowing when to do certain things and not wasting ultimates together, all that stuff. Communication is, as I said before, very key to winning this game. Thirdly is a strong mindset. You know, I am prone to rage queuing. I hate to admit it, but I rage queue a lot, and I would need to stop. But it's important to keep a strong mindset. Like, even if you're down, it's never truly over. Especially in the lower ranks, because you can take advantage of your opponent's misplays all the time. Never truly over. And even if you do lose, it's not the end of the world. You can always just play another game, which is what I'm so appreciative of in Marvel Rivals, is the queue times are actually really, really short. And it's great to just know that I can just press the queue match, get another game, and then later on, they have a great replay system as well. I can learn from my mistakes, right? I can go back and see, oh, I did this, the enemy did that, I should have done this. It's just like VOD reviewing in a fighting game. You can, keep that strong mindset, never think it's truly over, learn from your mistakes. And lastly, I'd like to say this, it is super corny to say, but I think everyone needs to just have fun. It's a video game. Everyone needs to have that sense of enjoyment, even if you're playing it competitively, playing it casually, if you're mad, if you're sad at the game, if you're happy. All that matters is, are you having fun? And if you aren't having fun, what's the point of playing at all? And I'd like to just plug my social in the description box down below. And I'm very grateful for Dami for letting me borrow his editor and thumbnail artist. And I think that's it. Peace.